Like I said, I believe we are facing a perfect storm, and I think the challenges are formidable and are going to get progressively worse. But there's still time to act if we'll do it. And that's my passion. I want to get this message out any way I can. Because I think one way or another we're going to change. We're going to be forced into it, kicking and screaming, and then it wouldn't be fun. Or we can do things proactively. I was on a couple years ago on one of my earlier things I wrote. Don Shelby had me on his show, and he asked me the question. We talked about this perfect storm, and he said, could we as a country ever do anything about it? It's such a massive problem. And I thought about this. I answered him. I said, look, if you talk to anybody in America on December 6, 1941, one day before Pearl Harbor, and you said to that person, guess what? In 3.5 years, we will have transformed our entire economy from peacetime to wartime. We would become the arsenal of democracy, kicking out prodigious amounts of military equipment. We will have recruited and trained 15 million men and women, put them in uniform. We would have harnessed the power of the atom, and we would have still had enough money left over to finance the Marshall Plan. You'd have said, no way. But they did it because they were challenged and they had no way out. Happened a little bit in the early 60s. Anybody remember when John F. Kennedy said we're going to put a man on the moon by the end of the decade? And boy, when you followed Russia and Sputnik and everything they were doing, you say, we'll see. But we put our minds to it. So as a country, we can do it. But I think the problem is we're hung up on gridlock. We're hung up on short-term fixes. We're hung up on quarterly earnings. That's the holy grail. We're hung up on the next election. And everybody's thinking short-term. And because of that, we're not investing in this infrastructure and doing these things that I think we really have to do. So what do? Well, I think it's going to have to start at the grassroots. I think a lot of it starts that way. And my message would be, and I hope you read that Weathering the Storm and you think about your role in this, would be this. We're not victims. We're not victims, people. There's things we can do if we don't just sit and wait for the government to come in and do it. Because they're not going to be on the bleeding edge on this, believe me. This is just too controversial. So there's a lot to do. I encourage you to get engaged. And I'll say this, one of my heroes in history was Winston Churchill. And Churchill said, what a play on words, this guy was great. He says, a pessimist sees the difficulty in every opportunity. An optimist sees the opportunity in every difficulty. And so it depends on how you look at this thing. In the Weathering the Storm guide, I've got a section right at the end, and it deals with creating entirely new economic engines of growth. Because if we really address this problem with the vigor we can, my God, there's so many new things we can do in renewable energies and power grid systems and synthetics and just tons of them. If we do it right, the jobs problem we have in the future might not be chronic high unemployment. It might rather be where we're going to find enough workers to fill the jobs. But we got to get beyond this short-term thinking. And as long as we're on it, we're going to just kind of linger. So I hope all of us will take a fearless inventory of the great challenges that we do face. But I hope also we'll see the great opportunities are there if we're willing to go at this and work together, because they are out there. So I'll conclude the program with that. I thank you all so much for coming, and I am going to turn it over to Rachel that tells you what happens from here. Thank you.